It's an honor to be able to recognize the Montgomery Historical Society for 80 amazing years of not only acknowledging but safeguarding Montgomery County's cherished history. And this work is more important now than it has ever been before, and the level of sobriety, the level of honesty, the level of intentionality with which Matt Logan and the board and this organization has undertaken the critical work of understanding and acknowledging our history and helping to begin the process of reconciliation of that history, noting the good, the bad, and the ugly, and helping us to make use of the past in a way that can be productive and constructive for the present and for the future, and that we can protect it and safeguard it for future generations. It has been a great honor of mine to be able to get to know Matt so well and to be able to work together with Montgomery History along with colleagues. And it is a great honor to be able to recognize this 80th anniversary as we look towards the anniversaries here in Montgomery County, which Montgomery History is going to be at the center of. And we rewrite that history to make sure that it is inclusive of not only the truth of that history, but everybody who has been part of that history, since too often the official historical texts in Montgomery County and in communities across our country were written in ways that were not inclusive and were written by people who had certain perspectives that left so many others in our community out. So thank you to Montgomery History. Thank you to Matt Logan. Here's to 80 more years and beyond of an organization that is so important to understanding how we got here and where we've been in order to figure out where we are and where we need to go. So with that, let me turn it over to Matt Logan, and then we'll read the proclamation.
Well, thank you, Council President Friedson. We're very excited to have made it 80 years. Just as the council as a governing body has evolved a great deal since 1944, so too has our organization. As you mentioned, we're committed to being relevant, to being inclusive, to being accessible, and to being engaging and telling stories that pull people in. Many of you may not know that the county is soon approaching its 250th anniversary. Just as the nation turns 250 in 2026, so too will Montgomery County. And we're excited to have a couple of projects that the council recently funded and the county executive, of course, is supporting this to tell stories that will be not the traditional narrative, but to shine a light on aspects of our history that need to get the attention. I saw a quote the other day that said that history is really the connective tissue that connects us with ancestors and our descendants. And to me, that was a really powerful reminder of the importance of storytelling. And with that in mind, I wanted to invite a young man who came to our history conference, and I think you'll see why he's stuck in my mind. He's a very impressive guy and someone who I think can really speak to the importance of history and why we do the work that we do. And with that, I'd like to introduce Alpha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alpha Mara. I'm a rising 9th grader, and I also want to say I recently attended my first Montgomery County History Conference. I would like to say that I love being there. There was so many different stories, especially it was relevant to me because it was in Montgomery County. Some of this stuff I never knew, and it was in the place I knew, like I live in right now. I also would like to say that my favorite part was the Civil War recount of a man who lived during this time. Usually in timelines they show a small blip of it, and it was so like life. I didn't know people could live during war and still live through it and still come to tell that story. So I also like to mention that I like history, and it's important to me because it's my civic responsibility to keep up my family stories. My family, I come from the Madingos, which come from West Africa, Sierra Leone. And you may know of a griot, which is a Ghanaian. Our family has Jelles, which are storytellers in our family. We use verbal memory to help our family remember our stories, which is why I started doing my NHD project, where I went to the Montgomery County History Conference to see other people's history projects, because I wanted to keep my history alive. So, also, if there's one more question. Yeah. There was the last one. Why? Sorry, I was just losing my train of thought. All right, you can do that.
You'll remember it.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Maimouna Mara. I'm a proud boy mom. I have 2 boys. My youngest isn't feeling well, but he wrote a statement. He also attended the Montgomery History Conference, and they also entered in the National History Day competition as well. So this was his take on it. He's 11. His name is Saeed. I think people should learn about history because you can learn anything from the past. Benjamin Franklin is cool, but let's learn about Jerry Lawson or Mansa Musa. My NHD project was about how Jerry Lawson inspired phones and mobile gaming. He loves gaming. My advice, history is exciting when you learn it in fun ways. So his sentiment through all of this was that he wants to learn more about Black history, but he feels like the children's books about Black history are very heavy and depressing. So his role in his history project was to bring the joy or Black joy back to history. And we appreciate going to Montgomery History Day conference because they learned how to do a project. And what they came away with was that there wasn't a lot of representation at the conference, and they were asking me a lot of questions. It's still an ongoing conversation, but my question back to them is, can you tell our stories? So I gave them the responsibility and the civic duty to tell our stories. Thank you.
So I remembered what I was gonna say. So I also think this history should be taught to people because I think you all here have a civic responsibility to tell your family stories, which is why I think it should be taught to people, because in order to know where we're going, we gotta know where we came from. That's what I was gonna say.
I think that was an encore performance, just to be clear. And I think it is reflective of how critical this organization is and how intentional it has been and how important it's going to be to make sure that we are telling our story and we are continuing from one generation to the next. And so thank you to Montgomery History. Thank you to everybody for being such an important part of getting to where we are and making sure that we're understanding it for moving forward. With that, we have a proclamation that I'm going to read. Whereas Montgomery History has served as the county's historical society since 1944 by collecting, preserving, interpreting, and sharing the histories of all Montgomery County's residents. And whereas Montgomery History currently operates the Jane C. Sween Research Library and the Montgomery County Archives, as well as the Stone Street Museum of 19th Century Medicine, and manages a 10,000-piece collection of historic artifacts. And whereas the organization offers free weekly online history conversations, hosts an annual history conference that both of us have attended, and now I'm following it. Annual History Day competition brings scholarly and public attention to 20th century history through the Harper Center for Suburban Studies and provides numerous educational and community exhibitions and events every year. And whereas Montgomery History ensures that the oral histories, artifacts, documents, photographs, and other historic resources that are necessary to tell the stories of Montgomery County's residents and communities. All of Montgomery County's residents and communities are collected and conserved in a manner that meets or exceeds professional accreditation standards and are made accessible to anyone who seeks to use them and to learn from them. And whereas Montgomery History is committed to celebrating the county's upcoming 250th anniversary by creating and sharing narratives that are inclusive of all county residents, providing context to contemporary issues, and encouraging community members to engage in this process. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County hereby honors the 80th anniversary of Montgomery History, presented on this 25th day of June in the year 2024 by myself, Andrew Friedson, Council President, on behalf of all of our County Council colleagues. Congratulations.